talk, the title of my talk, as you can see on the screen, cloud computing and. So during the course of my talk, I will be touching upon these points broadly. I get started with give a brief introduction about cloud computing. We move on to what cloud computing is all about, and I will give you a couple of simple examples so that we can easily connect to what cloud computing is all about. And then NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology, after quite a few revisions, in fact, after 15 revisions, in the 16th edition, it came out with a definition for cloud computing. So as per the definitions, it has identified several characteristics. So only when a service provider shows all these characteristics, a service provider can be truly called as a cloud computing service provider. Now, many a times, it happened to me also, we misunderstand what cloud computing is all about. Now, if something is available on the web, if it's a web-based application, we tend to mistake it as a cloud computing service, but it's not so. So we will see as we go along, what are all the characteristics that are needed for a company to be truly called as a cloud computing company. And cloud computing has several deployment models. It's because of the deployment model that we are able to use the cloud computing service. It also has service models. So we will see both these deployment and service models, what they are. And one of the important technology that really drives cloud computing is virtualization. So during the course of my talk, I will very briefly tell what virtualization is all about. Then we'll see who are all the major cloud computing service providers. And then time permitting, I will just briefly touch upon the experience of my library. I work at the GRD Data Memorial Library. In the recent past, about 18 months ago, we moved all our IT-based services onto the cloud platform. So I will just briefly tell what our experience has been after moving to the cloud computing platform. So I begin my introduction to cloud computing by a quote by none other than the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos. He says, "We don't generate your own electricity. Why generate your own computing?" Now, we all use several utility services every day. It can be electricity, water, transportation, telecom services. When we use these services, based on the usage at the end of the month or at a regular frequency, we pay for the service that we have utilized from these companies. Now, we take these services for granted. We really don't bother as to how the power is generated and transmitted, how the water is pumped and made available in our homes, or what the telecom companies do behind the scenes so that we are able to make voice calls and use our mobile for our internet access. So all these things, we take things for granted and then we use it as a utility service, and then based on the usage, we pay for these services. Now, Jeff Bezos meant exactly the same thing. Now, the question is, has the ICT, information and communication technology, matured to an extent that computer services can also be made as an utility service? Yes, today it has become a possibility. Amazon is the first company with its Amazon Web Services, AWS, which it's one of the first cloud computing service providers. So when the cloud computing services from Amazon came, so it became possibility for us to make use of computing facilities as a utility service, like any other utility service that we are already very much used to. Now, it's not that the cloud computing service became reality only after the AWS or the Amazon Web Services was started, okay? Now, much before that, there was already Google Mail, Gmail, for example, or other mail providers. And then when we prepare documents, Google Docs, okay, on the Google platform, okay, so that's also an example for a cloud computing service, okay. But AWS, the Amazon Web Service, and then the companies which came after that. For example, it could be Google Cloud or Azure from Microsoft or from the IBM Cloud. Okay, so there are several other companies which provide cloud computing services. Now, these cloud computing services, they really comply to what the NIST definition of cloud computing says. Okay, so that's the reason why these companies like AWS or Azure are truly cloud computing services. And today we can make use of computing facilities or computing services as a utility service. And then, like any other service, we pay for the service based on our usage. Okay, so essentially what I told in my introduction, cloud computing means that instead of all the computer hardware and software that we are using on our desktops or on our systems on the company's network, it is provided as a service by another company and accessed over the internet. Now, traditionally, what has been the trend? Now, the institutions or the organizations had their own computer centers or the IT infrastructure, and then all the departments and the centers within the institution, they had their own computing facilities depending on the requirement. Okay, and they also had individual desktops from which they would connect to the campus network or make use of the services made available on the campus network. Now, what it meant was a lot of application software had to be installed on the individual desktops or on the different servers running on the campus networks. And then we all have gone through this real pain of keeping the software up to date and ensuring compliance, ensuring that the pirated version of the software doesn't exist on our systems, and then ensuring that the systems run without break. So there are lots of issues that need to be addressed for the smooth functioning of the IT infrastructure of be it a library or a department or an institution. Now, with the advent of cloud computing, we can relegate all those headaches to the cloud computing service providers, and then all that we need is a device. A device can be a laptop or a desktop or any other handheld device, and these devices are to be connected, should be connected to the network, and then we make use of the computing services and facilities provided by the third-party cloud computing service providers, and then we make use of the services. So we don't have to worry about updates, upgrades, IT backups, and all those things. So just as other utility service, we just take things for granted. So similarly, when we migrate or when we move to the cloud computing facility, we don't worry about where the machines are located, where the machines are located, and don't have to worry about the backups. We don't have to worry about the software upgrades. Everything is taken care by the service providers. All that we need is a device with an internet connectivity so that we can access to whatever utilities or services that we have demanded on the cloud computing service provider side. Okay, now many times, even to me, this question has occurred. Why is it called as cloud computing? Now, it has a history behind it. Now, if you have a look at any of the flow charts or the diagrams depicting a network, okay, it could be a local area network or a wide area network. The networks are usually represented in the form of a cloud. Okay, so eventually, when it also has the concept of representing a network as a cloud is not limited to the computer networks. Okay, no, much before the computer network, people started representing a network as a cloud. The telecom industry was using the same symbol to represent telecommunication net. So a cloud, it actually represents, it could represent an internet, or it could represent a wide area network, or it represents a local area network. So it's only a representation. So cloud computing is a general term for anything that involves delivering hosted service over the internet. Now, some simple examples of cloud computing so that you can easily connect to what I'm talking about. Okay. So when we access web-based email, okay, like for example, Gmail, okay, so you're essentially using software as a service, cloud computing service, okay, when we access our Gmail, okay. Or when we prepare document using Google Docs, we are again using software as a service, and this is again a cloud computing service. Okay, they're just a simple examples of cloud computing services. Now, on the other hand, now if any of us use Google search engine, or any search engine for that matter, now that does not come under the realm of cloud computing service. Okay, so search engines are basically web application. So we know how the search engine works. The search engines will have the crawlers. The crawlers crawls across the public internet, then gathers and indexes these resources available on the public internet, and then they index them. So when we open google.com and do a search, so when we put a search term, it matches against the index, and then it gives the result. And then when we follow the result, we are actually taken to the actual sites. So this is only a web service, but it should not be confused as a cloud-based service. Okay, this is what I was referring to. Now, after several revisions, okay, over the period of several years, I suppose, in the 16th revision, National Institute of Standards and Technology came out with a formal definition, and today this is the definition which is very predominantly used by many sites, many books, and several people. Okay, so according to NIST, the definition of cloud computing is, as I'll just read it out. Cloud computing is a model for enabling ubiquitous, convenient, on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources. Now, these resources can be networks, servers, storage applications, services that can be rapidly provisioned and released with minimal management effort or service provider interaction. Now, the definition, according to the definition, if a company is to be truly a cloud computing service provider, okay, it should show these characteristics. So these are the 5 essential characteristics a cloud computing company should have. Okay. The first characteristic, on-demand self-service. Now, let's say I want a virtual machine. Okay, now we will shortly see what a virtual machine is. And let's say I'm taking service from Microsoft Azure. Microsoft Azure is a cloud computing company. Okay. Now I want a machine on the Microsoft Azure cloud computing platform. Now I should be able to get my virtual computer with the required hardware and software resources, whatever extent of RAM I need, whatever processor I need, whatever hard disk storage I need, okay, and then whatever operating system I want, I should be able to get it. I should be able to place an order and get it immediately without the intermediation of an administrator or some kind of a service personnel coming in between me and the service provider. Okay, so on-demand service, on-demand self-service, as the characteristic itself says, it's the ability of an individual being able to get a particular service from the cloud computing service provider on his own, and it happens immediately. Okay, so I can get a computer within a matter of few minutes on any of the cloud computing service providers. Now, the second characteristic, broad network access. Now, cloud computing services should be easily accessible. Okay. Now, they should not expect that the end users should have a robust network connectivity to the internet so that they are able to get on to the cloud computing service. Okay. Now, especially now, as long as we are accessing the cloud infrastructure from a campus network, we wouldn't face any problems because most of the campuses have good network connectivity to the internet. But the problem arises when we try to access these resources from our homes. Okay, so our internet connectivity, I mean, it can be anything from dial-up connectivity to fiber optic connectivity. Okay, but the network service provider should not expect that the individual users who get onto their cloud computing service should have a very broad, a very extensive broadband connection to the internet to access their services. So the third characteristic, resource pooling. Now, resource pooling is actually done by the cloud computing service provider. Now, I was just giving you an example of an on-demand self-service. Now, today, let's say I'm asking for a virtual machine with 32 GB of RAM, 5 terabytes of hard disk, and then one of the latest processors. It can be quad processor or one of the latest with many cores. Okay. Now, I may be using this machine for a particular purpose. Now, let's say that I'm using this virtual machine for providing my library management system service. Now, every library has an integrated library management system. So they're all IT based and hosted on computer systems. Okay, now if this computer system hosting my integrated library management system is on the cloud and it has got a very good configuration. Okay. Now, my ILMS is not used 24/7. Okay. I may have provision for very good configuration, but my configuration, my resources is not used 24/7. Now, what the cloud computing service providers can do when my resources are not being used, when my RAM is not being used, when my processor is not being used. Okay. So we were talking about the essential characteristics a cloud computing service provider need to possess. Okay, so we were coming to the fourth characteristic, the rapid elasticity. Now, what this means is, I was giving again with an example of a system which is hosting ILMS. Okay, now let's say I initially configured that system with a minimum configuration. Okay, so hoping that if need arises, I can always expand it, okay, based on need-based expansion. Okay. Now, let's say I configured my LMS system, a virtual system on the cloud with minimal configuration, and then I realized that the throughput and the latency was quite high. So the service, software, let's say, recommends a certain configuration, and I was not using optimal configuration to begin with. Later on, I can enhance it. I can change the processor, I can enhance my RAM, I can enhance my secondary storage. So all these are possible. Okay, so that's what rapid elasticity means. Okay, so I can expand and shrink my cloud computing resources as per the needs of an individual or an organization. And all these, the fifth characteristic is measured service. Okay. Now, whatever we do on the cloud computing platform, okay, how much of memory is used, how much of processing time is used, to what extent the process was used, was there any overload, how much of bandwidth was used, how much of disk space was used. Okay. Now, all these metrics, okay, they should be measurable. Okay. And based on the measure, the cost, we pay the cost accordingly. Okay, so these are the 5 essential characteristics that a cloud computing company should possess, and only then it qualifies to be called as a cloud computing service provider. Now, okay. So apart from the 5 characteristics that we saw, a cloud computing service provider should have. Okay. Now, cloud computing also depends on how the cloud computing infrastructure is deployed. Okay. So there are 4 different ways in which the deployment can happen. And then based on the deployments, okay, one of the 4 deployments, what are all the different services that are offered? Okay. So if you go back to the NIST definition, okay, it talks about 5 characteristics a cloud computing company should possess, and then 4 deployment models, and then 3 service models. Okay, so all these 3 features, okay, makes what it takes to be a cloud computing company. So deployment model define the type of access to. Now, you can deploy a cloud as a public cloud, or a cloud can be deployed as a private cloud, or it can be a hybrid cloud, or it can be a community cloud. So these are the 4 deployment models. Okay. Now, what is public cloud? Now, generally, when we talk about cloud, it always, most of the times, we are referring to the public cloud. Now, when we talk about Microsoft Azure or AWS from Amazon or the Google Cloud Computing Infrastructure, so we are all talking about the public cloud. So what exactly is the public cloud? Public cloud are environments that are entirely managed and serviced by external service provider. Okay, so we have no control about the hardware infrastructure or the software infrastructure. Okay, so everything is managed by the service provider. Okay, so that is public cloud. Okay, so anybody can, any individual or any company can avail service from the public cloud. So I can go to Google Cloud and then I can ask for a virtual machine, or if I'm running a company, I can take the Google development apps, or I can opt for Google Mail. Okay, the commercial version of the Google Mail. Okay, so any individual or any company can go to a public cloud service provider and then avail whatever the service are being offered by the service provider. Okay. Now, on the contrary, the private clouds are completely managed and maintained by the individual organization. Now, suppose if my organization, Indian Institute of Science, okay, plans to have a private cloud, okay, so that's very much possible. But then to be called as a cloud computing service provider, we should exhibit all the 5 characteristics that we talked about. Okay, so I can set up everything, all the hardware and the software infrastructure on the IISc campus, and all the people, all the students, all the departments within IISc can avail the services that we are talking about, okay, as a utility service from my parent organization. Okay, so the difference between public cloud and the private cloud is that the entire infrastructure with respect to hardware and the software are locally available. Now, community cloud is nothing but it can be a public cloud or a private cloud. Okay. Now, community cloud is one wherein most sister concerns spread across the country or spread across the continent. Okay. Now, these community of people or community of institutions get access to the same cloud. Okay, so that's what community cloud is about. Now, hybrid is a combination of any 3. Okay, so it can be a combination of a private cloud and a public cloud. Now, for example, if IISc sets up a private cloud, okay, so all the infrastructure needed for the IISc is managed within the institute, all the hardware and the software aspect of the computing facility. Okay, but then if it wants to keep a backup copy of some critical data, or the data that it cannot afford to lose, or the enormous amount of research data that the various departments are generating, and it does not have the capacity to hold the enormous amount of data. For example, certain departments, they generate terabytes and petabytes of data, okay? So if they are not able to, if they do not have the required storage, okay, even on their private cloud, they can make use of a public cloud, okay? They can go to Amazon or Azure or any other cloud service provider, and they can make use of the public cloud to have a copy of their data on the public cloud. So that's what the hybrid cloud is about. Okay. So now we talked about the characteristics of a cloud computing service provider. We saw about 4 different types of deployment models. Okay. And then now we'll talk about the service models. Okay. Now these are the 3 service models. Okay. Software as a service. Okay, which many of us have been using. Okay. Now many times we were not aware that we are using software as a service from a cloud computing service provider. Okay. Then the platform as a service. And then the third service model is the infrastructure as a service. Okay. So let's briefly see what each of these service models are. Software as a service platform makes software available to users over the internet. Okay. So whatever software, okay, it can, you name the software if it is available on the, most of the popular software are made available by the cloud computing service provider. Okay. So it is used by the entire community. Okay. Or if it is individuals, it's used by individual, or if it is for a community or an organization, the entire community makes use of that software. Now, for example, the entire IISc, we use the Office platform, Office 365 for our email, and then for all our Office applications. Okay, we use Office 365 from the Microsoft on the Azure platform. Okay, so this is a typical example for software as a service. So it has got many advantages. Okay, many advantages. Now, when you go back to the go back about 5 or 10 years ago, now we all used to struggle having the MS Office on our individual desktops. Okay, and then every department would have its own email client. Okay, they will have their own email servers. Then individuals will have their own version of Office. Okay, and many a times these Office software or any other regular use of, they're all pirated versions. Okay, then it's very difficult to get timely updates. And if it's a pirated version, you can never get updates. Okay, so there's a compliance issue. Keeping it up to date is a problem. And then when you're not keeping your software and hardware up to date, then there's always a security threat. Okay, so the biggest advantage with software as a service is you just need a device to access the software that you are using on your day-to-day basis. With an, you need to have an internet connectivity with the device, and then all other aspects related to the software are taken care by the service providers. Now, platform as a service is the second service model. Platform as a service, a cloud computing vendor provides hardware and software tools over the internet, and people use these tools to develop applications. Okay. Now, if I'm a company, okay, which develops software applications, okay, can be a gaming application or any sort of application. Okay. Now, imagine if I'm a startup company and I'm developing some software tools. Okay. Now, instead of setting up my own IT infrastructure in-house and then get started with developing, okay, so it requires several things. You need initial capital, you need IT people, and it takes time. You place the order, you get it, and then you get the software, and then there are a whole lot of other related things. Okay, so this itself may take about 6 to 8 months. Okay, on the other hand, you can get all the required hardware and software, okay, as a platform on the cloud computing service provider, and then you can get started with your development activities on the day your company comes into existence. Okay, so you gain a lot of time, you gain, and then you don't have to make that initial capital investment on the infrastructure. So the platform is given, and it is up to us to make use of the platform for developing whatever application that we intend to develop. Then infrastructure as a service. Infrastructure as a service business offers services such as pay-as-you-go storage, networking, and virtualization. Now, in fact, everything on the cloud computing service is pay-as-you-use. Okay. Now, infrastructure as a service, okay, is a model wherein I can get a hardware infrastructure. Okay. Now, for example, it can be, I give an example of in the context of IASC using private cloud and public cloud. It uses public cloud to store the enormous amount of data that the researchers in IASC generate. Okay. So in order to store the data, it uses the public cloud. Okay. Now you can get the storage, whatever amount of storage that is required. Okay. So you make use of infrastructure on the cloud computing service provider and store your data. Okay. Or I give an example of creating a virtual machine on the cloud computing service provider. Now the next 5 minutes, I want to have a virtual machine with a desired configuration. Okay, I can get it. Okay, I can get it on Azure. I can get it on cloud. I can get it on Google. I can get it on any other service provider. Okay, so within next 5-10 minutes, I can have a virtual machine. So I can use my same laptop and get connected to my virtual machine, and then I can install whatever I want on that virtual machine. So it is just you're given a virtual machine with the required hardware configuration, and whatever software that is required, it is up to us and install. So we can make web-based applications, be it our institutional repositories or our integrated library management systems or our websites or whatever IT-based services a library offers or an institution offers. Okay, instead of hosting all these services in-house on the IT infrastructure located internally, we can. People have started slowly migrating or moving to the infrastructure as a service model, and all the applications are slowly but surely being moved to cloud-based service providers. Oh, sorry. Okay, so now I said virtualization, which is a technology, and the technology which has been there for a very long time. Okay, now all along the virtualization has been is being used locally. Okay, now for example, I have a laptop. I'm using a laptop to make this presentation. Okay, this laptop is running Windows operating system. Okay, now let's say I'm developing some application, and then I want to develop my application both on the Windows platform, on the Mac platform, as well as on the Linux platform. So typically what it entails, I need to have 3 different systems, or I need to have multiple operating systems loaded on my laptop, and then load any one operating system at a time, do the development work, test it on a particular platform, then shut down and restart my system and start as a Linux system, and then test my code on the Linux system. Similarly, shut down my Linux system and then go on to the Mac system and do the development and testing there. Okay, so we can imagine the amount of work and then frustration it involves. Okay, on the other hand, can I do the same thing without restarting my system every time, or without rebooting my system every time and booting different operating systems each time? So that is possible. Now you can install virtual software. They are referred to as hypervisors. These special purpose virtualizing software can be installed on any of the desktops or the laptop systems, and then you can convert one physical system into multiple virtual systems. Okay. Now, in fact, I have one virtual system on this laptop, but I'm afraid I don't want to go back and show that to you. in the process, something may happen to my presentation might get disturbed. I don't want to show that. Okay. So there are many open source software. For example, Oracle Virtual Machine, okay, is one of the open source software that you can set it up on your desktop system. And this virtualization software helps you to create virtual machines. Now, how many virtual machines that you can create on your desktop, it depends on what kind of a configuration you have. Suppose you have 32 GB of RAM. So you can create, let's say, 4 virtual machines. Each virtual machine, you apportion 8 GB of RAM. And you have, let's say, 2 terabytes of hard disk, and you allocate 500 GB of hard disk space to each of the 4 virtual machines. So this concept of creating multiple virtual system from an individual physical system is very extensively used by the cloud computing service providers. So when I make use of a virtual system on the cloud computing environment, I'm essentially using a virtual machine. So this, how this virtual machine is created? This virtual machine has been created using a hypervisor software and using one system with enormous configuration. They create, I don't know, maybe tens and hundreds of virtual machines. And then when individuals ask for virtual machines, these virtual machines are given as an infrastructure, as a service by the cloud computing service providers. So I hope I'm able to make you understand what virtualization is. So virtualizing your server lets you to run multiple operating systems like Windows and Linux in different virtual servers and on the same physical server. So you have one physical server, and that one physical server in turn can host multiple virtual machines, and each virtual machine is independent of each other and they have their own environment. So this is pictorial depiction of how virtualization is done by the cloud computing service providers. So they have one server, okay, that has been virtualized into 2 virtual machines. Now, each of these 2 virtual machines are again used to create multiple virtual machines. So when I ask for a virtual machine from any of the service providers, so I may be allocated this or this depending on what is available. And again, amongst all these virtual machines, they do the resource pooling. So as I said, by using specially designed software called hypervisor, an administrator can convert one physical server into multiple virtual machines. Now, each virtual server acts like a unique physical device capable of running its own operating system. Now, this will again, it's a pictorial representation. Okay, now traditionally what happened? I mean, this was the traditional approach. You have a system, you have an operating system, and then you have the applications. Okay, so one system, you have one operating system, and then you have number of applications and being used by one person. Okay, now here you have virtual. This is the virtual architecture. You have one physical system, and then it can have, to start with, let's say it has got Windows operating system. Now you can install a virtualization layer on the operating system that already exists, and then you can create multiple operating systems on one physical system that we have. And then each operating system can run whatever applications are needed. Just seeing if I'm overshooting time. I'll just take 5 minutes. Okay, so what are the advantages of cloud computing? So it offers flexibility, there is efficiency, and then there is strategic value. So what are the advantages with respect to the flexibility of cloud computing services? Now, as I've been saying, scalability. Okay, so I can scale up my requirement as required. Scale up as the requirement demands. Okay, now today I'm making use of one virtual machine. Tomorrow I may need 5 other virtual machines, so I can scale up. Or the existing virtual machine I can scale up my configuration. Okay, storage options. So you have networked storage option, okay, on the cloud computing service provider. Okay, so I don't have to worry about backup. I don't have to worry about disk crashes. Okay, now all those things, because they maintain multiple copies of the virtual machines. So even if one virtual machine that I'm using crashes, so I won't use anything that was there on my virtual machine. And again, it happens transparently. The other virtual machine, which is a mirror of my existing virtual machine, takes care. Okay, so that's the biggest flexibility that I have. Then control choices. So I can use what I want. I can use the software as a service. I can use platform as a service. I can use infrastructure as a service, or any combination of these services. Then tool selection. Now, each of these service providers, they offer various tools. Now, these tools and applications are used by the developers to develop applications. So depending on what my requirement is, I can opt for whatever tools I have, whatever tools I need. Security features. Now it will be incorrect to say that the cloud infrastructures are impenetrable. I mean, it can't be penetrated by the hackers. Now, it's not true. There have been many instances where the cloud infrastructures have been hacked by the hackers. Okay. Now, but then compared to our locally hosted IT infrastructure, now it is, I would say that it is more secure. Now, coming to the efficiency of cloud computing services, accessibility. Now you can access from anywhere. Okay, you can access from any device. So that is the biggest accessibility advantage that you have. Data security, as I said, the service provider backs up the data, and they have multiple copies, and backup happens in real time, and we don't have to worry about disk crashes or losing the data or not updating the data. So data is up to date all the time. Saving on the equipment. Now, I was giving an example of a startup company coming out with an idea and having to develop some software tools. Okay. Now, instead of setting up their own IT infrastructure, they get onto the cloud computing service provider, and then they get started with the development work very early. Pay structure. Now, all the cloud services are based on you pay as per the usage. So the expenditure at the end of every month or every quarter, okay, it will vary depending on the usage. And also, you don't have that. You don't have to make that initial capital expenditure for your IT infrastructure or hiring people with IT background to maintain the IT infrastructure. Strategic value. So we don't worry about the software upgrade, the disk crashes. Okay, you can concentrate on the development work. Okay, so your work is streamlined. Regular updates. All the updates are taken care by these service providers, so we don't have to worry about upgrading the software or the software applications that run on the machines that we are making use of. So it is taken care by the service provider. Collaboration, because it's accessible from anywhere, from any device, it's much easier to collaborate. So these are some of the advantages of cloud computing infrastructure. So there are obviously, it's not that cloud computing is without any sort of disadvantage. There are definitely disadvantages as well. So network connectivity it's totally dependent on the network connectivity. Now today, if I didn't have my mobile tethering, so I would have been stuck because my fiber optic service provider is down. Okay. So I would have had to come to the LISA office and then made this presentation. Okay. So similarly, if your institution is totally migrated to the cloud infrastructure, if your company or the institution, if there's a problem with your network backbone, wide area network, then the entire campus is affected, and then you won't be able to do any work till the network connectivity is restored. Okay. And then probably you may not have the kind of kind of maneuverability that you have when everything is under your control. Okay, so it has its advantages, and it also has certain disadvantages. Loss of control. So everything is controlled by the service providers, especially if it is a public cloud. Okay, so you don't know where the data is, who is managing the data, okay, whether the data is secure, whether it's not being shared with anybody. So you completely lose control over your data and your application when you are on the public network. Security, as I said, security is always a threat. Okay, so no system or no network or no computer application can say that my application or my system is foolproof. Okay, so any amount of security that you build around your IT infrastructure, there are people, smart people around, so who can penetrate into your network or computers and then get hold of your data. Okay. Technical issues. Now again, you don't have a face to deal with. Okay, when you are taking your cloud computing infrastructure, especially the public cloud. Okay, now everything you have to communicate over the email and then get the things resolved. Okay, it's very rarely that you get in touch with a human being to solve your technical issues. So these are some of the leading cloud computing service providers, which most of you are already aware with. I just want to touch upon Meghraj, okay, which is a cloud computing service by the National Informatics Center, which is the Government of India cloud computing infrastructure, okay, provided by NIC. And Badal is again, it's mostly it's a community deployment of cloud computing infrastructure, wherein all the IITs or all the institutions which are in the .ac.in domain, okay, will be able to make use of Badal. Especially, it is infrastructure as a service cloud computing service. So if you want a virtual machine, and if your institution is on the .ac domain, you can create your own virtual machine on the Badal platform. I think it is being the cloud computing infrastructure of Badal is being maintained by the IIT Delhi. So I think I'll skip this because Poojar will be running short of time. Please suggest me whether I should talk about this or I can skip this.
You can speak for 5 minutes so that you will be sharing actual experience at JRD Tata Library.
Okay, fine. Okay, now till 2017 or so, all our IT-based infrastructure, okay, all the services that we were giving, like the library management system, our email system, our web portal, our institutional repositories. In fact, we have two institutional repositories, one for the research publications and the other for thesis and dissertations. Okay. Now, all these were being managed with the IT infrastructure, in-house IT infrastructure, and I've been associated with all of these for a long time. I can vouch for it that it's not easy going. Okay. Now, some days there'll be network problems, some days there will be power outages, some days the systems will crash. To keep all these applications up and running all the time, you really need to dedicate yourself to ensure that these services are going on uninterruptedly. Okay? So in 2017 or so, IIC decided to move entire its email facility onto the Microsoft Azure platform. Okay, so prior to that, each department had its own email server, each department has its own web server, and every department needed to have IT administrators, and it was a big headache and challenge. Okay, to ensure uninterrupted service and access. Okay, so once we moved to the Microsoft Azure platform, okay, so we are using software as a service, the Office 365 platform. So every department now has moved. The entire IIC is on the Microsoft Azure platform. Okay. So then we gradually moved our three other virtual machines we configured on the Microsoft Azure platform. So one server we have configured our ePrints and DSpace repositories. Okay, and the second server we are exclusively using for our library management system, and the third server we are using it for our library portal and then for our other development activities. Now, since the time we moved all our IT-based services onto the cloud platform, there has not been a single instance of the service going down or the system being down. Okay, occasionally the service may become slow down, but then it eventually comes up. Okay, but there have not been any instances of a system being down and then the service not being accessible. So since the time we migrated, all the services have been stable, and then we don't have to worry about the UPS power connection, the raw power connection, the network connectivity, the accessibility, and all that. So it has definitely our lives have become much easier compared to maintaining the in-house facilities. So to conclude, think of cloud computing as a renting fully serviced flat instead of buying a home of your own. Okay, so it's like having a fully serviced apartment or having your own independent home. Okay, clearly there are advantages in terms of convenience. Okay, with the service flat offers, but there are huge restriction on how you can live and what you can alter. Okay, so in a service apartment you can't alter anything, so you have to live with what you have. Okay, unlike your independent home, you have the independence of making alterations as per this required. Now, will it automatically work out better or cheaper for you in the long term? Now, this I won't be able to answer because we just have migrated, and the cost aspect, the costing, we have not really worked out. Okay, so but then when it comes to convenience, definitely the cloud-based, making use of the cloud-based services offers a lot of convenience, and then most importantly, the services are up and running all the time. So thank you very much. So probably the questions can be taken after the second session.
No, sir. Thank you, sir, for your very informative talk on cloud computing. So this talk question will be taken now itself. Now I request our moderator to pose 3 to 4 questions. I request him to make a crisp question should be crisp and very precise to the theme. Satyavinay, please. Sir, you can start sharing your screen, sir.
Okay, just a minute.
Thank you, Sriram. Thank you, Dr. Francis Jaikant, for a nice presentation. And there are more than 50 questions, and mostly I have taken, or I have seen that questions related to library, that cost, security, and which software they should use. Mostly these are the questions. So I am just compacting all questions into a single. There is no time, so it will be better if you are taking one question with all aspects. Means what is the security and what will be the cost and which platform or library should go. So some you have hinted, and it will be better if you can say on these points. It will be better.
Okay, so which service provider to make use of? Giving the example of JRD Library and Indian Institute of Science. Now, actually, Indian Institute of Science decided to go for the Microsoft Azure platform. Okay, so JRD Tata Library, our library started using the Azure platform. So it was not our decision. So we didn't have to go through the process of evaluating the various cloud computing service providers. Okay, so as I said, the lead service providers being Amazon, Amazon is the top, then followed by Alibaba, then Microsoft Azure, IBM, Cisco, DigitalOcean. So there are several of them. Okay, so we didn't have to evaluate the pros and cons of each of these service providers, and because the facility was already provided to us, so we had no option but to go with that. So I really won't be able to make a comment on whom should you opt for.
Satya, you have to unmute your audio. Satya. Unmute your
Yeah. What is the level of satisfaction by ISC library after using this cloud computing? So many questions related to that also are there, and some users wants to visit your library to understand this cloud computing.
Yeah, they're always welcome to visit the library, and then we'll be happy to share our experience in migrating our services onto the cloud platform. Okay, so as I said, it's been almost 20 months now since the time we migrated, and there has not been a single instance of system going down. Now, I'm sure when you are maintaining the infrastructure on campus or in-house, there will be very frequent power outages, network issues. There will be so many other problems, okay, which in turn makes the service unavailable for sometimes for hours, sometimes even for days. Okay. Now, this is the biggest problem that we have overcome. Since the time we have moved to the cloud platform, the service is constantly available. Okay. So the only hindrance is if you have any problem or bottleneck in accessing, getting onto the network, then it becomes a problem. So otherwise, from the service provider's point of view, they ensure that the service is up and running all the time. And then the biggest advantage is scalability. Now, we realized that for one of the servers, the configuration was slightly high. Okay, and then we were eventually paying more than required. So we scaled it down. That's what the elasticity is all about. So we brought down from 16 GB to 8 GB. In another instance, we were finding that the service was not as per the expectations. I mean, the latency was there, the responses were slow. So we upgraded that system from a particular configuration to a higher configuration. So this flexibility of elasticity is very convenient. So you can upgrade and downgrade as per your requirement. In the normal course, if you are maintaining your IT infrastructure locally, then you know it may take even months to do this. Okay, and then you can get your virtual machine within a matter of minutes. So tomorrow, let's say now it happened so that during the lockdown, we wanted to start a Shibboleth service. Okay, now we wanted to have it on an independent virtual machine. So we got the virtual machine in a matter of hours. And then during the lockdown, setting up Shibboleth service was so critical that we were able to do it within a matter of weeks' time. Okay, starting from a virtual machine to installing and configuring the system and making all our services available on the Shibboleth or through the Shibboleth platform. So these are the biggest advantages that one has when we make use of the cloud computing services.
Thank you, sir, for your answers. And now I hand over to Shivram for the next session.
Yeah, thank you, Satyaranjan Sahu. So before we start our second session, there is a lot of requests from participants about presentation files. As LS Academy is taking an initiative to curate all these lecture videos by a professional, and we are uploading all these lectures with presentation files to LS Academy YouTube channel, which you can find. You can go to YouTube and search for LS Academy India, or you can note down this link and you can access all our webinar talks, which will be curated and posted. And I request all participants